She went his toy, stabbing herself deep under her left index finger's nail with the needle of her name. Oh, God. Oh, this is your artistic weep friend Dylan here. Welcome back to Iwaihime. So, I got nothing left. We're just gonna keep on. School had ended, yet Kurokami never showed up. However, there was a chance she'd appear at the LCSC, so I decided to bet on that chance and go to the club. But the heat in my chest had grown so hot that it was making me dizzy. I knew this wasn't due to a fever, but it felt very similar to one. The power of a miracle was beyond a human body to begin with. Perhaps my body was screaming from the effort of trying to obtain it.
無理しないで帰んなよ。私もずっとそう言ってるんですけど、頑固で。
Here's the thing, I don't think she's gonna be able to get there.
部活はサボっても皆勤賞には響かないと思うぜ。そうかもね。
黒髪さんに伝言があるなら、私が会った時に言っておくよ。
No, it has to be in person.
タマユンに頼めば？よくクロッチに電話してるそうだし。
そうだね。今日来ないならそうしようかな。おいおい、フラフラだぜ。無理をしても全然グレートじゃねえや。
Even Natsu was unsettled by this. Riri stopped by earlier, but she took one look at me and went home with a guilty look on her face. Not that I blamed her, she couldn't work if I got her sick. I was fine, but I was already being a burden on the others.
ちょっと保健室に行こうかな。
それを言うの、ちょっとレイトだよ。
肩を貸すぜ。
あれ、クロッチ？
Did she make it to school? Oh, Kurokami. I turned around and saw her trying to enter the clubroom. She was staggering just as much as me. We're constantly switching perspectives. Even though Suzumi's presence was supposed to ward off hauntings, the world distorted again the moment Toei saw him. But there was no macabre illusions this time. Instead, everything had gone monochrome and frozen in time. Yet Suzumi was still in vivid color for some reason. Ooh. It was then that the divine curse appeared before Toei.
我に感謝せよ、
Here we go.
トエ。そなたのけなげな願いを叶えてやろうと思ったからこそ、今、そなたはここにある。トエ、我の時は満ちた。そなたの千年の苦しみから解放される時が来たのだ。
お前を解放などするものか。
もはやそなたの身に我を封じ続けることはかなわぬ。そなたももうそれに気づいておろう。その苦しみに耐え、千年の間、この六神彦の命の呪いを封じ続けてきたこと、褒めて使わすに値する。だから我はそなたにこの最後の奇跡を与えたのだ。陸奥の末裔梼原鈴夢に最後に一目会いたいというそなたの願いを叶えることでな。分かっておろう。本来ならばゆうべそなたの腹を破ってもよかった。しかしそれではあまりにそなたの千年が報われぬと我は一昼夜を猶予したのだ。
怒った。神の呪い。
おごりと受け取るならばそれもよし。ただしこの時間さえも 我の慈悲であることを忘れるな。
The divine curse's eyes flashed scarlet and the world darkened. Though he could tell her own soul would vanish forever the moment all went black. That was why, even though she tried to close off her heart, she couldn't.
二つの末語から好きな方をそなたに選ばせようぞ。一つ、我の行為を無下にし、このままろうそくの明かりが消えるように消えゆく末語。
Can't. Toei could never accept that. If her soul were obliterated here and now, the divine curse would be released immediately. That would render her thousand-year struggle to protect this island from calamity meaningless. Then the other option was
鈴原進とちぎりを交わすのだ。
それ、できれば、黒は。
Toei took in the suit of whoever she laid with. That was why she'd been forced to take someone like Sho Kaminuma as her fiancé. He didn't have a trace of suit in him. So even though she was Suzunome's descendant and Suzumu was Mutsu's, they could not be together.
いずれにせよ、すすだきの秘術は明日の夜明けを待たずに破れる。
Ooh, there's an actual time limit.
ならば最後の時くらい、千年を超えて再び出会えた運命の男と体を重ねて迎えたいとは思わぬか？
Something warm and bashful welled up and spread throughout her Toei's body. It was luscious and turned her legs to jelly. A false love brought on by the curse. The divine curse tried to make herself stronger by forcing her host to lie with men who possessed even a bit of suit. Though she awoke in the descendants of the sacrifice feelings in this of the I can't speak. Though she awoke in the descendants of the sacrifice feelings of love proportional to the amount of suit involved. Of course, that wasn't to say Suzumu wasn't charming in his own right, but the love Tsubakiko Kanai and Riri felt for him was in no small part due to the curse's whisper. So for Toei, who had by far the strongest and most suit of them all, it was not irresistible. Her breathing grew labored as her body heated up. Her body longed for Suzumu Suzuhara. Toei did everything in her power to resist those urges, but that's why she did go crazy. That actually was Toei. That whenever in the first chapter going, insane. That technically still was Toei. It wasn't necessarily the curse, but it's sort of the curse. It's kind of hard to explain that.
何をためらうのか、トエよ。
So the reason she kept trying to stay away from him, because she's resisting those said urges so she doesn't add more suit to the curse.
そなたが鈴原進を抱こうと抱くまいと、この地を明日の最悪から守ることなどできぬのだ。
It was a trap. The curse would grow stronger if she took in Suzumu's suit. If the calamity was inevitable, then the very least she could do was try to weaken it as much as possible. She wanted to embrace her duty, no, embrace Suzumu. Toei groaned as desire and reason waged war within her. How she wanted him, how her heart ached with love for him, how she longed to melt into his arms and lie with him. Toei broke out into a sweat, her knees giving way. She gazed longingly at Suzumu.
おけちゃんためになる。
Question is, can the others see this? Because they're in that room too. They probably can't see the curse, but can they see Toei being, like this, melting, if you so say. Toei crawled on the floor and slobbered as she begged Suzumu for help. The curse took advantage of that deep-rooted sensation every woman strove for in an effort to gain more suit. But Toei fought back desperately with all the reason she had left. No, I mustn't give in to this. But if the curse is going to be set free anyway... No, I can't give in to despair now. I can't surrender myself to the curse. I can't... Yeah. Toei writhed as she curled up into a ball and fell silent. That was all the resistance she could muster. The divine curse sneered.
黒髪さん、大丈夫?
Just then, Toei heard Suzumu's voice. Time was supposed to be stopped in the monochrome world, yet she heard it clear as a bell. Oh, for God, they said time was stopped. So, okay, so I guess they can't actually see what's going on. With that, Suzumu and time resumed their movements, but the world remained colorless.
黒髪さん、具合悪いの?
鈴原こそ足がふらついていると。
The pair staggered toward each other, almost like they were suffering the same ailment.
君にどうしても伝えたいことが。
伝えたい。
僕が絶対に君を呪いから救うか。
Suzumu's body shook violently.
おい、大丈夫かよ。肩を貸すぜ。
保健室に早く。先生いるかな。
Now time has resumed. I'm not gonna. In her heart, Toei was a mess of laughter and sobs. Suzumu's words had moved her to tears. Her heart swelled with joy. She didn't know she was even capable of feeling this way anymore. But his words had stirred something she thought was long dead within her.
クロッチも大丈夫？
Is she?
なんか足元ふらついてるし、無理に学校来なくてもよかったんじゃ。クロッチ。
Alright, she's laughing and slapping at the same time, right? To Kanai, Toei sounded like she was just mumbling nonsense like always, but this time Toei was laughing with ecstasy and crying. At that moment, Toei returned to the dark monochrome world.
トエ、そなたの選択しかと受け取ったぞ。誇り高く最後まで生贄としてさらなるすすを拒むその矜持、見上げたものよ。なれば明日の朝はおろか、今宵の月さえも待つ必要はあるまい。
So the helmet's off now. Oh. The stones in Toei's stomach swelled and grew to gargantuan proportions. Her stomach was tearing from the inside out.
かなえ、椿子、リリア、3人の蓄えたすすはすでに我が身に取り込んだ。そしてそなたの体を得て、我は最悪の執行者となろうぞ。だが、そなたがいらぬというなら、鈴原鈴夢のすすは我がもらい受ける。
Okay.
知った。あの3人のすすを集めたのは雛形のすすはないけれど、今ほとんどのすすはお前に集まっている。
雛形真由とは巡り合わせ悪く、運命の歯車が合わなかった。あれもまたそなたらと同じ弱いであったなら、 我の声が届いたものを。
Interesting. Nagata was a grown woman who'd made it through adolescence. It was difficult for the divine curse and hauntings to instigate adults due to their heightened spiritual defenses, or the loss of sync with their spiritual channels. Interesting. So that's why it's them. Why it affects them more.
しかし問題はない。その分のすすは鈴原鈴の生き肝よりもらう。そなたの爪と歯を使ってな。
お気の毒だけど、全てがあんたの思い通りになると思ったら間違いよ。
何を言い出す？
もう呪いを封じ込むことはできない。そうね、あんたの価値よ。それは間違いない。でもね、あんたのその価値にまだいくばくかなできる汗が残ってるんだから。
ない。今よりお前の体は我のものとなる。そなたにどのような企みがあろうとも、もはや瞬きの自由さえ与えぬ。
However, she'd fallen victim to hubris. She had remained a spectator because she was confident she could take over Toei's body anytime she pleased. Toei reached into her breast pocket with trembling fingers. Inside was the student name tag she never wore.
それで何ができるというのか。
こういうことができるの。
She unfastened the safety pin and after a moment's hesitation, Kanai shrieked and fell. Still, it was no surprise considering what just happened. She witnessed Toei stabbing herself deep under her left index finger's nail with the needle of her name. Oh, God. It's reminding me of the thing from Higurashi, with, who was it? Man, they've been a while since from Higurashi, I'm forgetting the names. It was with the twins. It was a sudden sharp pain that few could tolerate. Having a needle shoved into one's fingernails could cause anyone to squirm. Her mother's letter had described it as a last-ditch move to regain one's sanity in a pinch. She probably came up with it after getting hurt during a haunting and realizing that she'd been released from it the moment she was injured. In exchange for unbearable agony, Toei's stun had brought the world back to normality and dispelled the image of the divine curse. A human's essence was indeed in the soul, but when the soul was lodged in a body, it could not ignore what the body was telling it. Extreme pain and excess of the body's limits could temporarily override the prerogatives of the spirit. Hauntings and the divine curse were no exceptions to this, but despite all the pain, the reprieve could only last for so long. The whole world was slowly losing its color and becoming monochrome again as proof of this. Toei didn't have a lot of time. She needed to accomplish her goal and what little of it she had left. Now that she met Suzumu and talked with them, she had no more regrets. She was ready.
大丈夫？さよなら。みんな元気。ちょっと。
Toei staggered out into the hallway while groaning in agony. Kanai was too stunned by the abrupt turn of events to move. All she could do was watch as Toei disappeared out of sight, only a trail of blood remaining to mark where she had gone. Don't you dare have that saving.
大丈夫よ。これは病気じゃないわ。疲れすぎね。
Inagana smiled as she laid Suzumu in a bed.
疲れすぎ？
最近、鈴原くんは親善武術のお稽古を少し頑張りすぎてたんじゃない？ああ、それは確かに。先日も雨が降る中、ぶっ倒れるまでやってて。 私すっごい心配したんだから。
おいおい、そりゃグレートが過ぎるぜ。そうかな。
一眠りしたら少しは楽になるはずよ。しばらくおとなしく目をつむっていなさい。
He doesn't have time for it.
はい。
But he's still gonna do it. It wasn't long before Susumu dozed off. Shibukiko and Natsuya smiled and shrugged as if to say they'd worried too much. Once they left, Hinagata turned back to Susumu.
ついにやったのね。
Hinagata smiled and gently stroked Susumu's cheek.
神の呪いを打ち破るには神の奇跡を宿すしかない。でもその力は人の身にはあまりに過ぎたもの。
Of course she would know.
神の呪いを打ち破ることはできるかもしれないけれど、
僕に何が起ころうと覚悟してます。
鈴原君。
Susumu hadn't been sleeping. Hinagata was a bit surprised, but quickly regained her cool.
あなたは何者なの？
鈴原鈴夢で、神前武術の継承者で、そして陸奥の生まれ変わりなんだと思います。
Of course you are.
それは大体想像できてるわ。その上でなお思ってるの。あなたは何者なの？
わからないです。
陸奥の執念は確かに奇跡に届くほどのものだったけれど、それでも彼は人間。あなたは陸奥の血は引いていても人間であることに変わりはないはず。でもあなたは。
After a pregnant pause, interesting choice of words, Hinagata suddenly smiled and stood up.
なるほどね。あなた
僕は
内緒。
Oh, really? This far down the line and you're still keeping secrets?
意地悪です。
Yeah, it's not fair.
あなたにとってはあなたが誰であるかなど問題じゃないわ。あなたは鈴原鈴夢。そしてあなたの運命はあなたが決める。あなたが望むようにあなたの運命をあなたが切り開きなさい。
先生こそ何者なんですか？
私グラマラスでミステリアスな鈴田高校の保健室の主。そして5つ子の邪法でトエちゃんとは別に鈴の目の血を受け継ぐ呪い元神社の生贄の末裔。そして多分おそらく私はあなたの妹。
意味がわからないです。
Yeah, I don't understand either.
いいよ、忘れて。今は少しでも体を休めなさい。もうじき峠を越すと思うから。
はい。
Hinagata could see it. A brilliant flame in Susumu's chest was pouring into his fist. His fist shone sublimely with the miracle of a god. It wouldn't be long before the 1,000-year journey undertaken by Mutsu and his descendants took shape in Susumu's fist. Oh, no saving yet. Okay, so we're still... Okay, Toei walked on unsteady feet as she battled the pain in her stomach and the agony under her fingernail. Seeing Toei moaning and staggering was nothing new to the townsfolk. They pretended not to see anything and cleared the way so they didn't have to get mixed up with her. Of course, Toei didn't look at them or the townscape yet either. Not when they kept shifting back and forth between the regular forms and and monsters with practically each blink of the eye. However, the disordered world was slowly but surely winning the battle.
小賢しい真似を。しかしいつまでもそのような真似続けられはせぬぞ。
Toei pricked herself under the nail of her left ring finger. When dealing with intense pain, the body alights all its senses at once, but it still wasn't enough. The divine curse was still there. She needed something deeper, sharper.
無駄な努力を。
Toei's pain was like dirt in the eye to the divine curse. She grimaced in discomfort and disappeared along with the disordered world, but Toei knew by now this would only buy her so much time. Her left hand was already red with the trickling of blood. The same went with the doll she was clutching with said hand. The pain pulsed with each beat of her heart. It felt like her fingertips had swollen and ruptured. And just when the pain became tolerable, the divine curse reappeared and sneered. But Toei still had fingers to spare. If that wasn't enough, she could also give up her eyes if she had to. Ugh. Finally, Iwaihime see if I can say this. Noroimoto Shrine came into view. The shrine built not for celebration, but solely to keep the curse sealed. Toei casually hid her hand so no one noticed. She couldn't afford any obstacle to her plans, not at this point. After all, she only had so many fingers. Toei headed for the main hall. Her thoughts turned to the letter left by her mother and grandmother. This was a mockery that had been spanned 1,000 years. Though it appeared to the humans to seal away the curse with the suit-gathering spell, over the course of a millennium, the curse gathered more suit and grew. It was likely far more powerful than the curse Kurokami Hiko no Mikoto had reigned on the village 1,000 years prior. This curse was man's punishment. It had accrued interest in exchange for being put off for so many years. Now the time has come to pay the price. Though their millennium suffering may not have prevented the coming disaster, Toei wanted to protect this land for as long as she could. Otherwise, she and her ancestors would have suffered for nothing. What's more, she couldn't help but laugh at this result.
けなげに己を痛めながらどこを目指すかと思えば、そなたたちを鈴の目にすすだきの邪法を執り行ったあの梵鐘の前とは。もしやそなたはその身を梵鐘に封じようというのか。
お前は呪いという超越の存在だけれど、この1000年の間、唯一お前を隔てることができたものがある。
すすだきの邪法の梵鐘か。
The divine curse furrowed her brow for the first time. Though her smile was confident, her eyes held a twinge of concern.
呪いの鈴は梵鐘に封じられて生贄に全てを吸収された。つまりお前は梵鐘に隔てられたら外へ出ることはできない。
そなたは一つ忘れておる。梵鐘がどのような形か知らぬと見える。
Yeah, it doesn't look very well.
分かってる。それでもお前の目論みを少しでも邪魔することはできる。
小賢しいや、鈴の目の末裔め。
The bow used for the ritual had the power to trap the cursed suit. That was why the sacrifice was able to absorb the entirety of this curse over 3 days and nights, without any leaking out. But though the bell itself could seal the suit, the ground and floor beneath it were a different story. While the bell could seal the suit from above, it would eventually leak from below. But it was still a better outcome than simply surrendering herself to the curse. The divine curse wanted nothing more than to bring about an unparalleled calamity to this land. Toy could weaken her in some way.
無駄なことを。そなたらが1000年をかけて一時しのぎを繰り返したように、そなたもまた一時しのぎに命を捧げるのか。
その一時しのぎが私たちの使命なり。
愚か者か。
Toy pricked herself again and the divine curse faded from view. The curse mocked her as she went, but could no longer hide the concern from her face. Toy groaned in agony. Her whole left hand was pounding like a giant heart. Though the pain was intense, it wasn't as harrowing as it had been at first, and was gradually dulling to a burning throb. Her body was getting used to the pain she didn't have long. She had to hurry. Toy crawled under the temple bell hanging from the rope. It was pitch black and painfully deafening on the inside. Toy sat up straight and calmed her heart.
かけまくも賢き。呪い元神社のお前を拝み立て祭りて。賢みも豊作。
When Toei started chanting the prayer, a faint creak filled the silent space. Though she couldn't see it, it was the sound of the bundle of rice plants holding the bell up, starting to tear. The heavy bell began to sway a little.
やめよ愚か者。このようなところに我を閉じ込めたとて最悪は変わらぬ。それよりも我と共にそなたやそなたらに理不尽な1000年を強いた人鬼どもに今こそ復讐をする時ぞ。
狼の色気なつき恵みもかたじけなみ祭り高き尊き見教えの兄場に。
梵鐘を落として消えるように眠れると思うか娘。梵鐘の中で我はそなたの腹を内から破りてよみがえる。無論忌まわしき梵鐘の外へ出るには短からぬ年月をかけよう。だがそれまでを退屈して待つつもりはない。我に最後まで盾てついたそなたを無限に引き伸ばした時間の中で、この暗く狭い梵鐘の中で永遠に慰み者にしてくれる。
直き正し
Keep
き
going, Toei, keep going.
持ちて誠の道にたごうことなく追い持つ技に励ましめたまい。
我に逆らいて何の得がある。トエ鈴の目。我と共にこの地に災いをもたらそうぞ。そなたの1000年の苦しみも我が慰めてやろうぞ。だがそれを断るというのならば、さらに1000年を我がそなただけをいたぶり抜いてくれる。この1000年そなたを見てきたぞ。そなたが何に最も苦しみ、何に最も恥ずかしめられたか、我は全てを知り尽くしておるのだぞ。それを全てくれてやる。もてあそんでやる。なぶってやる。おぞましさに腹渡を吐き出してもなお、そなたが死をもって救いを求める嘆きが1000年間こだまするまで、それでもよいのか。
この1000年お前がそれほど悲痛に叫ぶのは初めてだわ。それだけでお前の言う1000年小気味よく過ごせそうだ。
この愚か者が、もう一度陸奥に会いたくないか。肌を重ねたくはないか。 そなたの肉体は直ちに滅ぼされ、もう奇跡さえも願えなくなるのだぞ。
As long as humans live, they can wish for any kind of miracle. That desire alone is what gives them hope to live on, not the actual granting of the wish. Even in the chain of suffering that began with Susanome, they had held out for 1,000 years because they were able to believe a miracle would come. Only those who had lived for millennium could understand the fear of having even that hope crushed. Even so, Toei did not falter. That was her pride as the girl who had been sacrificed to the divine curse.
奇跡さえも願えなくなるだと。哀れな諸姫。奇跡ならもう叶っている。
小賢しや小賢しや、恨めしや恨めしや。とえ鈴の目。
Toei's thoughts turned to Mutsu Suzumu. He was 10 years too late, 100 years too late, 1,000 years too late. However, she was still so happy she got to see him again. And that's where it ends. Okay. Fuck. And it just so happened to have to end, or not end, save at that point. I mean, I've been recording for a good bit, so yeah, I guess it's a good time for that to happen. But man, it was getting so, like, I feel like the next time is going to be extremely exciting. Extremely, like, who knows, maybe it'll be the end. Though after this, there is I don't know, I remember what it's called. It is the DLC, is like a DLC, an extra thing. I will be playing that. I will be playing that as well. But anyway, that's the end of this video for Iwaihime. If you enjoyed, then subscribe. Check out other videos I've done. See you next time. Bye-bye.